Today we are going to practice multiplying and dividing integers. Here we go. Okay, let's multiply and divide some integers. Remember, an integer is simply a number that carries a positive or a negative sign. Now, in order to know what the sign of your product or your quotient is, let's do some simple examples. 1 times 1 is 1. We know this. We know that this is a positive times a positive, and it's giving us a positive. Because if a number doesn't have the negative sign, then we know that it's positive. So a positive times a positive gave me a positive. What if I swapped the sign of one of those integers? What if I multiplied a positive 1 times a negative 1? Well, here I'm taking one copy of a positive, gives me a positive. That makes sense. Here, if I take one copy of a negative, it should give me a negative. I also know that because of the commutative property of multiplication, I can switch the order of these two integers and not change the answer. So that means that a negative 1 times a positive 1 gives me a negative 1 as well. Okay, these two are basically the same question. I just swapped the order. What if both of them were negative? Well, if a positive copy of a negative is going to give me a negative, then a negative copy of a negative should give me the opposite of a negative, which is a positive. So when I have two positives being multiplied or divided, it will give me a positive every time. If I have two negatives being multiplied or divided, it will give me a positive every time. If I have one of each, one positive and one negative being multiplied or divided together, my product or quotient will be negative. We can summarize these general rules for multiplying and dividing integers by simply saying a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative will always give me a positive answer, product or quotient. A negative times a positive or a positive times a negative will always give me a negative product or quotient. So this is the general rule that you can follow for multiplying and dividing integers. Let's use these rules to do some examples. So 2 times 5, the number part of your answer is never going to change. 2 times 5 is always going to be 10. The sign is what we need to use the rules for. So here I have a positive. Remember, if there's no sign, we just understand that it's positive. So I have a positive and a negative. So they're opposite signs. They're going to give me a negative product. 4 times 3 is 12. I have a negative times a negative. Same signs, positive answer. You can write a positive 12 or just 12. Here I'm dividing. 15 divided by 5 will always be 3. I have a negative and a positive. Opposite signs will give me a negative quotient. 20 divided by 4 is 5. I have a negative and a negative. Same signs, they give me a positive answer. Okay, now it's your turn. Pause the video, try these questions, and then come back to check your answers. 6 times 6 is 36. I have a negative and a positive being multiplied. Opposite signs gives me a negative product. 35 divided by 7 is 5. I have a positive and a negative, so my answer is negative. 27 divided by 9 is 3. I have two negatives, so that gives me a positive product. 8 times 4 is 32. I have a positive and a negative, which gives me a negative product.